Institute of Island Studies for having the discussion. As you can already see, there's a lot of common threads and themes, even if we're all talking on different topics that come in together. So siloing them and having a talk just on climate change or just on health or demographics is not sufficient when looking forward for our future. So it's great to see all the different themes come together. I'm talking about climate change, and currently we're seeing a lack of leadership at our federal government on climate change, but there are some movements. Everyone was aware of Copenhagen in December, where we had some movement forward, and we're seeing in North America and the United States, it's quite likely that they will take action on climate change either through a bill or their environmental protection agencies. So it is a direction that we need to take, and as Irene has highlighted, the island, like all island states in the globe, is quite vulnerable. We are low-lying and we have our nice rolling hills, but that does create some challenges, but also opportunities for us to take actions. So I highlighted some very simple and concrete things that we can take action on right now. A lot of times with the discussion on climate change, you're bombarded with visions of disasters and big waves and, you know, the glaciers melting, but there's are some simple things that we can all do, and all levels of government can take action on. In the United States, one of the great things that has been happening is because they didn't have leadership happening at the national level, a lot of local governments and mayors were taking great steps, and I think that that's a vision that we can see here on the island, making sure that we're having municipal governments as well as our provincial government give a strategy overall. And everything I say here tonight is actually, you know, been talked about. We just need to now take those concrete and immediate actions. And taking action today helps us in the future, making sure that we're looking for new and inventive ways to see our development while keeping what is unique about the island, which is our coastal and our traditional economies. So the three things that I'd like to highlight on is land use planning, feed-in tariffs, which goes to getting more people to adopt to renewable energies, as well as energy efficiency programs. So talking about land use planning, there's a lot of really inventive ways that we can go about this. Making sure that we don't continue to produce infrastructure in vulnerable zones. Although it's beautiful to have waterfronts and focus on developing that to get the cultural, we have to recognize that a lot of that land is very vulnerable. So for us to continue to put key infrastructure such as our water management, our hospitals, our roads, our building, as well as our cultural centers in vulnerable zones just means in the future we're going to have to pay to either protect these through walls or increased infrastructure or have to move them, as well as this causes increase in insurance because they will be vulnerable and need to be protected. So just having that forward vision of when we're looking at developing our communities, and this includes rural, and a lot of times this is just going back to our traditional knowledge. As Irene mentioned, a lot of islanders, we know we can't put foundations right near cliffs, but we're seeing a lot of large infrastructures, a lot of houses, new cottages being built on vulnerable land that are going to have to be moved, and so making sure that we're going back to those traditional understandings and making sure that that's continued to be passed down from our elders to our new generations of developers. So right now we also have to look at what's vulnerable. So if you look at Charlottetown, we have a lot of our key infrastructure that is quite vulnerable, and that needs to be addressed, and so we have to look at a plan to make sure that we're either moving those or adapting them, so that we're not focused in 25 years, in 2035, we're stretched beyond our capacity to move those or adapt them. There's also a lot of unique things you can do with land planning to promote local living and walkable communities. We've seen our downtowns across rural communities as well as our major urban centers become empty, and we need to promote people living there, being able to access all their services so that you can use public transportation, you can walk as well as bike. We've seen some great boardwalks go up. Montague has a great one, but we need to make sure that those are linked so it's active transportation. So you're not just walking to enjoy it, but you're also able to walk to get to all your services, your doctors, and creating that idea of a community. Down in New Zealand, it was really neat to see that because they had similar demographic challenges, they had more communities set up for seniors. So everything was walkable so that they didn't have to be concerned with driving. So you would have long streets where no cars were allowed, but you could get to your doctor, to the library, to the cultural center. So everything is engaged, and that really helps too when newcomers are coming into our communities, that they get to meet the local people while walking. Development going forward is feed-in tariffs. And what this is, it sets up an allocated amount. So if someone invests in solar panels or wind energy, either a farm or an individual for their home, that they would have a set rate that they could receive. So that way, you know, when you're making that investment, although you'll be able to use some of the energy, if it goes back onto the grid, you know how much you're going to receive from it. And a lot of jurisdictions have adopted this, including Ontario, California, and Germany was the leader internationally. And that's how you see so many wind developments. And so I think this is a key policy to adopt to also support our rural communities and to diversify some of the revenue for farmers. We can see that a lot of our wind development has been happening, which is great, but a lot of that is for our benefit for export. But there's not a lot of benefit that's coming to the local communities. And so this is a way that they can feel connected and also receive some benefits through both the energy as well as the revenue generation. So I'd like to see the P.E.I. government adopt those, and that can complement a lot of the other investments that they've been making, which are great. Another simple policy that can be implemented right away is energy efficient programs. We all have heard that investing in energy efficiency is cheaper than investing in other renewable energies. So we've seen some retrofit programs here at the provincial level for homeowners, but although it was increased to $35,000 a year for assistance, it would be great to see more for everyone across the board. One example was the federal home renovation tax credit, and that would have been a great opportunity to have that focus more on energy efficiency versus across the board, so that we're seeing benefits in multiple ways. There should also be more highlighting the simple things that people can do. A lot of times with climate change, everyone thinks that they have to go back to the land and live simple, and they can't travel, they can't enjoy life, but really it is just highlighting the opportunities and benefits that we can do that are small changes and are smart economic changes to tackle this challenge going forward. Also for P.E.I., we need to establish building codes so that new buildings and infrastructure that is constructed meet energy efficiency requirements, so that we're not always having to tackle the retrofits. It's easier to pay for it now than going in the future. I just wanted to say that P.E.I. has an opportunity as we're an island, and we have a close-knit to be totally self-sustainable with our energy if we adopt renewable energies as well as energy efficiency. So although a lot of times pessimism is associated with climate change, I think the island needs to recognize that we have great opportunity and embrace that optimism. Thank you.